initiated. Preparing for dust-up.
You're my target! Fire Keepers! They're dead meat!
I got around to building Jahoda because it seems like a lot of folks have been calling her trash and or useless. I think I've seen some folks on both the main and the Jahoda subreddit complaining about her too. But either, I've had a go at building and playing Jahoda in the game, and I have some thoughts. Depending on which version of the video title you're seeing on YouTube, you probably already can tell that it doesn't seem like she's as bad as some people seem to be making her out to be. The TLDR of her kit is simply that she's a healer who happens to have some off-field DPS, and she can give the on-fielder 100 EM. If you manage to get her C6, either thanks to the recent Duran Venti rerun, or someday in the future, Jahoda becomes Moonsign Sara. What's interesting is that Jahoda is also the first healer, I think, to have a special mechanic where if she heals someone who's above 70% HP, she'll also heal the lowest HP character on the team. So whilst she's still very much a single target healer, she's also technically half a team healer for just a little under 40% of her normal healing. And it seems to me that for the most part, her healing is actually quite good. Using a simple VV build with a healing hat, we're looking at just under 8.5k healing on the primary target, so just over 3.2k healing on the other character. In my experience, the primary and secondary healing seems to be enough to handle a Furina team, so we don't even have to go out of our way to make it work in much the same way that we would have to for someone like Shinobu. So it got me thinking, what about Jahoda's off-field damage? Jahoda's DPS is only a thing in Ascendant Gleam teams. The idea is that you use her skill, run around, fill up her bottle by being near anyone who is affected by the feck elements, then it just starts attacking enemies. What's curious is that it seems to have a very high talent scaling because at level 8, which is what I've left it at, it's just under 340% attack. If we compare it to other notable off-field DPS characters, C2 Crown Miko's turrets, so long as they are in fact near each other, have just over 213% attack scaling, with her ult of course being more of her damage budget. Escoffier's Crown skill has 216% attack scaling. She also brings varying amounts of res shred of course, which Jahoda can also bring with something like BB. Malwika's ring has 230% attack scaling. DPS Duran's ult has 234% attack scaling, or it's 170% with support Duran as long as you bring along the res shred as well. And Emily's lamp with enough sense has just over 300% attack scaling, and then of course there's the special hit from her passive which is 600% attack scaling. So it seems like Jahoda's talent scaling is actually a little stronger than most off-fielders, which got me kind of curious about putting her on a DPS build. At this point, the main point of consideration would be whether or not her healing can still keep up something like a Furina team whilst using a build that doesn't have a healing hat and also aiming for some more crit stats as opposed to just going attack and ER. And it seems like we're looking at 6k healing on primary and around 2.3k healing on the other character. And whilst it's hard to see what the actual damage she's doing is, it looks like at base, Jahoda could do somewhere around 10k hits with this build. So with something like a fanfare buff, I think I'm seeing somewhere between 15,000 damage hits, but it's of course hard to differentiate between her DPS and something like Suradatan Shivarbarin. By comparison, my Miko build is doing somewhere around the 16k hits at base, and with a variety of buffs in the international team as well as whatever she can provide herself, I'm seeing somewhere around the 38k hits without aggravating. I looked at two different builds to build DPS Jahoda. We're looking at VV, and then we're also looking at Golden Troupe, both running Aqua Simulacra or as an alternative, Rainbow Serpent's Rainbow. Surprisingly minor damage difference in favor of Aqua though, we're looking at 9k hits versus 10k hits. And even though I have a bit less crit damage, the lower damage coming out of the VV build suggests Golden Troupe is just outright stronger for Jahoda's own DPS. Of course, VV is supposed to be a support set designed to get the rest of the team to do more damage, and yet it seems like in the main team that I did some testing on, enemy clear times were pretty much exactly the same. Might have something to do with the general flaws of VV. It has an 8-second duration, it doesn't work off field, and unfortunately for Jahoda, she doesn't actually have regular Animo app. So if you're hoping to build her for DPS, then it does seem like Golden Troupe is the way to go, because there are in fact 2 teams where I might see some Jahoda usage, let alone DPS Jahoda. Nefer teams. Now she's a lot more difficult to play in these teams, as you need a target to be affected by Hydro for Jahoda's bottle to actually fill up. So if Lauma's Dendro app is active, Jahoda is cooked. This gets extra important if you have C6 Jahoda, as you do need to fill up her bottle to get the crit buffs. That being said though, if you are playing Nefer with someone like Aino or Burst Ayato, Jahoda can convert the Circle Impact Hydro app into Hydro app that actually follows you around, so I suppose there's some value in that. Now I'm not entirely sure if you can start a rotation with Aino's ult and still be able to maintain her C6 long enough for Nefer's damage window to work. It might not work, you may have to fiddle around with something else. Actually, if you also bring Sigewinne instead in the team, you can convert her otherwise limited Hydro app into consistent Hydro app that also follows you around. And Sigewinne gives a Yunjin style buff to off-field skill damage, so that could actually be a major buff to Jahoda's DPS. Otherwise, there's Lunar Charge teams, in particular the ones that are missing either Flint or a Nefer. Jahoda becomes super easy to use in these teams because she can end up being the alternative to Aino, and I guess later on Columbina, and still maintain the Ascendant Gleam. Infusion prioritizes Hydro instead of Electro, so Jahoda is basically a second source of Hydro damage in this team, and of course once again, the Sigewinne angle could be something you can explore. I do want to briefly go over her constellations as well. C1 gives her a 50% chance to double the hits of her skill, which basically means that she gets 50% DPS increase total. So if you've actually built her for that, it's pretty good. C2 improves her A1 passive. In all the teams that I would play Jahoda in, she's going to get the Hydro buff, so her total healing is going to go up by 20%. But in Lunar Charge team, she's also going to get the additional robot on top of her 2 robots in her ult, but that really just means that her rather limited off-field DPS from her ult is just going to get a 50% DPS increase. C3 is ult level, C5 is skill level, so C3 is more healing, C5 is more damage if you actually build for that. C4 gives Jahoda another energy generation method. When the robots in her ult infuse an element, she gets 4 energy, so that's usually 8 energy, 12 if her A1 gets the electro buff. On top of how you get 2 energy every 3.5 seconds if her bottle gets filled and starts attacking enemies, her ER requirements don't seem to be that high. 122 ER is what I have, and that does seem to do the trick most of the time. And her C6 is the aforementioned crit buff with slightly less crit value than Sara. All in all, it does seem like Jahoda isn't as bad as some folks are making her out to be. There are a few things I wish she was better at. For example, filling up her bottle. It would be nice if it didn't take that long. And also, you can also get knocked out whilst filling her bottle because she doesn't have interruption resistance. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But when things are working out fine, she does seem to be absolutely perfectly fine, and I think that's actually a bit of a miracle when it comes to 4 stars these days. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. How do you feel about Jahoda? Have you even given her a chance? Let me know in the comments. Obviously, I am talking about a C4 Jahoda as part of my experience, so maybe your mileage will vary differently if you don't have that many constellations, and obviously I don't have C6 Jahoda. It would be nice to maybe get her someday. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Genshin Impact action, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Ultimatum protocol.